Swing tonight, we invite you to travel back in time to a quiet village nestled in the heart of medieval Europe, a place where life was simple yet full of challenges, where peasants faced harsh winters, relentless lords, and the shadows of famine and plague. But through it all they endured. Their stories are not of grand battles or kings, but of everyday courage and quiet resilience. So settle into your favorite chair, dim the lights, and let the gentle rhythms of history carry you slowly into restful sleep. This is the story of how medieval peasants survived plagues, famine, and the rule of lords. Welcome to Boring History for Sleep. The morning began not with an alarm, but with the gentle rising of mist over the green fields of the village. Somewhere, a rooster called. Its voice cut through the silence like a familiar chant. The sun was slow to rise, brushing pale light over the thatched roofs of simple cottages. Each home, built from timber and wattle, exhaled the earthy scent of mud and straw. Inside, a peasant stirred. He did not stretch luxuriously, nor yawn with leisure. Instead, he blinked slowly in the dimness, lying on a straw mattress tucked in the corner of a one-room hut. His body ached, but he was used to the aches. They were old friends, softened by familiarity. His name might have been Wulfric, or perhaps Ealdwine. Names mattered little. He was one of thousands, a speck in the feudal fabric, but his life was his own, a quiet thread woven into the day's labor. Beside him, his wife was already awake. Her fingers, cracked by winter, clutched a wooden bowl. She stirred a thin gruel made from barley and water, no sugar, no spice, just warmth and the memory of last year's harvest. Their child slept nearby under a patchwork of wool and flax. His little chest rose and fell, peaceful, unaware of the centuries of hardship wrapped around their lives like a winter fog. The fire in the hearth had long turned to ash, leaving only the faint scent of smoke. But a new flame was coaxed into life, fed by twigs and dry moss, and soon the hut glowed with orange flickers dancing on rough stone walls. Outside, the village was stirring. Cockerels crowed in tired chorus. A dog barked. The sound of a wooden pail knocking against a well echoed faintly. One woman, shoulders wrapped in wool, hurried to draw water. Another man, limping, carried a sack of oats to his ox. No one spoke much. Words were saved for necessary things. The day was long, and silence made it easier. Wulfric, dressed in his tunic, patched at the elbow, and wrapped a belt of rope around his waist. He stepped into rough leather boots. They were hard from the cold, but better than bare feet. Outside, the air was crisp. Dew clung to everything. It was the kind of morning where the breath came out in puffs, soft little clouds vanishing into the dawn. He walked to the fields. The land was not his. It belonged to the Lord, a man he rarely saw. But still, it was his hands that turned the soil, his back that bore the weight of harvest, his sweat that soaked the earth each day. The village owed the Lord labor, and labor they gave, 6 days a week from dawn to dusk. The fields were vast and brown, dotted with small stones and narrow furrows. His job today was simple: sow winter wheat, not too deep, not too shallow, one handful at a time, stepping carefully, whispering rhythmically under his breath as he moved. Back in the village, his wife gathered herbs from the garden, the same garden she'd tended every day since spring. She picked sage and feverfew, which she hung in bundles to dry. These were not just for flavor. They were medicine for coughs, for wounds, for headaches. The herbs whispered old secrets passed down through mothers and grandmothers. Children ran barefoot between huts. They did not have toys, but they had sticks and rocks and imagination. They played near the river where reeds swayed in slow motion. Sometimes they'd catch frogs. Sometimes they'd gather pebbles or watch the sky. They laughed in bursts like birds. The village was small, maybe 20 families. Each knew the other's voice. Each knew the stories, the losses, the births. Gossip came in the form of bread shared by the oven. News traveled slower than the seasons. By midday, the sun was a soft coin above, neither warm nor cold. Wulfric paused to eat. A crust of bread, hard and dry. Some onion. A sip of ale, brewed weak and sour. There was no feast, but it filled the belly enough to go on. His thoughts were quiet, and the rhythm of the work lulled the mind. Dig, south step, repeat. Time moved like molasses in the cold, slow, sticky, constant. The bell from the chapel rang gently in the distance. One clang, two, three. A reminder of time, a whisper of faith. Though Wulfric could not read, he believed. The priest said prayers in Latin, and he listened like a child listening to the wind, not understanding, but feeling the meaning all the same. As the sun dipped lower, shadows grew long and soft. Smoke curled from chimneys. Chickens were gathered into coops. Pigs snorted in their pens. The village returned home. Inside the hut, the family sat on the floor. Supper was the same as breakfast, perhaps with a few greens from the pot. They ate slowly, saying little. A cough echoed once, then twice. The wife touched the child's forehead. He was warm, but not dangerously so. She would boil some thyme. After eating, they sat quietly by the fire. The flames cracked softly, painting their faces in flickering light. Wulfric mended a tool. His wife spun wool. The child dozed against her arm. Night came not as a curtain, but as a gentle tide. Stars peeked through holes in the thatch. The moon cast a silver light across the field. Dogs barked far away. Somewhere an owl hooted. They lay down together. No locks on the door, no glass in the window, just faith, just rest. Sleep came as it always did, not rushed, not resisted, like a forgotten song slowly playing in the background, and outside the world spun quietly on. The morning mist returned again, soft and thick, wrapping the village in a gentle gray shawl. The chill in the air hinted at the coming change of seasons, a reminder of the harsh cycles that govern the lives of those who live close to the land. The fields, once lush and promising, were now marked by the scars of drought and poor harvests. The earth, stubborn and cracked, had refused to yield its bounty for many moons. Hunger was a quiet companion, settling deep into the bones of the villagers. But even in scarcity, life endured. Inside a modest hut, a mother gently fed her children a thin porridge made from boiled grain saved from the last successful harvest. The taste was bland, and the portion small, but it was sustenance nonetheless. Her hands trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from the weight of worry. In those times, famine was more than just empty stomachs. It was the shadow that fell over celebrations, the silence that stilled the laughter of children. It was the cold wind blowing through broken windows, the empty baskets left by the granary. Yet, faith held firm. The villagers looked to their chapel, a small stone building adorned with faded frescoes and a modest wooden cross. Inside, the soft murmur of prayers wove through the air like a protective cloak. The priest, a slender man with kind eyes, spoke of hope and divine mercy. His voice was a gentle balm, soothing fears and bolstering spirits. Many believed that their suffering was a test, a punishment for sins both known and unknown. They turned to rituals, lighting candles, saying prayers, leaving offerings of bread or flowers, hoping to appease unseen forces. Beyond the chapel, old women gathered in circles, whispering charms and healing prayers passed down through generations. Their knowledge of herbs and remedies was a treasured secret. They brewed teas from nettles, lavender, and rosemary, believing in their power to calm fevers and ease pain. On the village green, children played quietly, their faces thinner, but still bright with curiosity. They listened to stories told by elders, tales of heroes and saints, of strange creatures that roamed the forests at night, and of miraculous healings. These stories, spoken in hushed tones, were threads weaving the community together. Meanwhile, the Lord's manor stood imposingly on a nearby hill. Its stone walls and towers cast long shadows over the fields below. Though the peasants rarely saw the Lord himself, his presence was felt everywhere, in the taxes collected, the rules enforced, and the labor demanded. Despite the hardships, the villagers worked the land, their hands weathered but steady. They sowed seeds with hope and patience, knowing that the earth's generosity could never be taken for granted. They tended their animals carefully, for a sick cow or a lost chicken could mean a loss felt deeply. Evenings were a time for reflection. Families gathered around their hearths, sharing what little food they had. The fire's glow flickered softly, illuminating tired faces and tired hearts. Songs were rare, but sometimes a lone voice would rise, singing a hymn or a lullaby passed down through time. Sleep came slowly, wrapped in prayers and quiet dreams. Outside, the night was alive with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The world was harsh, but within the village's humble walls, hope endured like a small flame against the darkness. The sun rose slowly over the village, its pale light casting long shadows across the uneven dirt roads. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, mingling with the distant call of crows settling into the trees. This was a place where time moved differently, where days blended quietly into nights, and the past whispered softly in every stone and leaf. But beneath this calm, a heavy fear often lay just beneath the surface. It was a fear of things unseen and uncontrollable, the wrath of lords who ruled from distant castles, and the invisible specter of death itself. The plague, the Lord's manor, perched on its hill like a silent sentinel, was a constant reminder of power and control. From its stone towers, the Lord watched over his domain, demanding obedience and tribute. His word was law, his will unquestioned. To the peasants, he was both protector and oppressor, a figure cloaked in mystery and authority. Taxes were collected with harsh precision. Grain from the harvest, chickens from the coop, sometimes even a few coins if there were any to spare. Refusal was not an option. The Lord's men, stern and unyielding, would ensure the dues were paid. This tribute often left the peasants with barely enough to feed themselves and their families. Yet, despite these burdens, life went on. Children played under watchful eyes. Women carried water from the well. Men tilled the stubborn earth. Their lives were woven into a tapestry of daily rituals and survival. But survival was never guaranteed. When the plague came, it came like a shadow darker than the night itself. No one knew exactly how it began, nor could anyone stop it once it had arrived. It spread silently and swiftly, carried by fleas on rats, or so the folk believed. Some thought it was punishment from God, a test of faith, or the work of witches. Villagers whispered about the Black Death in hushed tones, afraid to speak its name aloud. The symptoms were dreadful: fevers, painful swellings called buboes, weakness that dragged bodies down like stones. Many fell ill, some within days. The sick were often left alone, tucked away in small huts, or even outside the village for fear of contagion. The village changed as the plague passed through. Graves multiplied in the churchyard, dug quickly by trembling hands. The cemetery grew larger than ever before, a silent testament to the lives lost. But in the face of death, the people clung to each other and to faith. The priest's voice rang out more often, calling for prayers and penance. Processions wound through the village, candles flickering in the dark as villagers sought comfort in rituals and the hope of divine mercy. Many fasted and confessed sins, believing that only by humility could they escape further suffering. Those who survived the plague found themselves changed. The population had thinned, leaving fields less crowded, homes quieter. Some laborers found new opportunities as the balance of power shifted slowly. Others grieved silently, carrying memories like heavy stones. The lords, too, felt the effects. Fewer peasants meant less labor, and some lords struggled to maintain their estates. This period sowed the seeds of change, although it would take many years to fully unfold. Beyond the political and physical hardships, life was filled with small moments of tenderness and resilience. Families shared what little they had. Neighbors helped neighbors, and children's laughter still echoed across the fields. Tales were told by firelight, stories of courage, loss, and hope. In the quiet hours of the night, the village rested beneath a sky full of stars. The weight of history pressed gently against the earth, but within the hearts of those who lived and loved, a quiet strength endured. Sleep came again, slow and steady, carrying the weary souls into dreams where the past and present danced softly together. As twilight descended upon the village, a soft hush settled over the fields and cottages. The last golden rays of the sun dipped behind distant hills, painting the sky in gentle shades of pink and lavender. It was a time of day when the world seemed to pause, a moment caught between light and darkness, waking and sleeping. In the hearts of the peasants, this time was often filled with reflection. Their lives were intertwined with faith and fear, woven together like threads in a tapestry. The church, with its humble stone walls and small wooden door, stood at the center of the village, a beacon of hope and mystery. Faith was a constant companion. It was found in the prayers whispered before dawn, in the slow chanting of the priest during Mass, and in the careful lighting of candles. The villagers believed that their fates were guided by divine hands, that their suffering was part of a larger plan. They sought comfort in this belief, especially when the world around them seemed cruel and unpredictable. But fear walked alongside faith. Stories of witches, demons, and restless spirits circulated quietly among the villagers. These tales were told in hushed voices around fires, a way to explain the unexplainable, When crops failed or a child fell ill, it was sometimes blamed on dark magic or evil forces. The peasants looked for signs, a crooked tree branch, a black cat crossing the path, and wondered if these were omens. The church tried to guide the villagers away from superstition, urging them to place their trust solely in God. Yet, the old beliefs persisted, blending with Christian teachings in curious ways. Folk festivals and rituals continued, marking the changing seasons with dances, songs, and offerings meant to protect and bring good fortune. Healers, often women known as wise women or cunning folk, held a special place in the community. They knew the power of herbs, of charms, and of rituals passed down through generations. Though sometimes feared or misunderstood, they were called upon in times of sickness and distress. The balance between hope and dread shaped daily life. Each dawn brought new worries. Would the rains come? Would the Lord demand more? Would the plague return? Yet, beneath these concerns lay a deep resilience. The villagers found joy in simple things: the laughter of children chasing butterflies, the smell of fresh bread baking, the warmth of a fire on a cold night. These small blessings were treasured and celebrated. As night fell and stars shimmered overhead, the village grew quiet. The boundaries between the seen and unseen blurred. In their beds of straw wrapped in woolen blankets, the peasants drifted into sleep, carried gently by dreams filled with faith, hope, and the enduring spirit of their time. The dawn broke softly once again over the village, spilling pale light across fields still damp with morning dew. The world awoke slowly, wrapped in the quiet rhythm of rural life. For the peasants, each new day was both a challenge and a gift, a chance to live, to work, and to hold on to hope. Life in the medieval village was marked by simplicity. There were no grand luxuries, no lavish comforts. Instead, there was the steady pulse of the earth, the steady beat of hands that worked the soil, and the quiet strength found in community. Despite hardships, plagues, famines, heavy rule, the villagers endured. Their resilience was born not of wealth or power, but of everyday acts of survival and kindness. Neighbors shared what little they had. Children learned the skills of their elders, and families celebrated the small moments of joy that punctuated their days. The seasons ruled their lives. Spring brought planting and hope. Summer offered the promise of harvest. Autumn, the gathering of fruits and grains. And winter, the time for rest and reflection. Each phase carried its own rituals and rhythms, grounding the villagers in the natural world. Faith remained a cornerstone, guiding them through dark times and bright. The chapel's bells rang out regularly, marking the passage of time and the presence of something greater than themselves. In the evenings, stories were told, tales of ancestors, of heroes, and of the land itself. These stories connected the past to the present, weaving a tapestry of memory and identity. Though the world beyond the village changed slowly, the spirit of the peasants remained constant. They adapted, survived, and found peace in the simple, steady flow of life. As night embraced the village once more, the people rested, their hearts quiet and minds drifting gently into dreams. The world outside might have been vast and uncertain, but within their humble homes there was a calm strength that endured through the ages. Sleep came as a gentle tide, carrying all into rest and renewal. As the final light of day faded, into the soft embrace of night. The village settled once more into its peaceful slumber. The air was cool and still, filled with the quiet sounds of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves. Above, the stars began to twinkle, timeless witnesses to the countless nights that had passed over these lands. Though their lives were humble, the medieval peasants left a legacy that quietly shaped the world. Their toil turned wild earth into fields of grain, their hands crafted tools and homes, and their traditions wove the fabric of communities that would endure for centuries. The hardships they faced, plagues, famines, harsh lords, were met with resilience and grace. Their stories, though often unrecorded in grand books, live on in the rhythms of rural life, in the customs passed from parent to child, and in the history etched into the very soil they worked. The world moved forward, slowly changing and growing. Kingdoms rose and fell, new ideas blossomed, and cities expanded. Yet the spirit of those peasants, their quiet strength, their hope, their connection to the land, remained a foundation beneath it all. Tonight, as you drift gently to sleep, imagine the soft flicker of candlelight in a distant cottage, the whisper of prayers carried on the night air, and the peaceful rest of those who lived so long ago. Their lives may have been simple, but their endurance and humanity continue to echo softly through time. May your dreams be as calm and steady as the fields beneath the stars, and may you wake renewed, carrying a piece of their quiet courage within you. Sleep well, dear listener, and know that history's gentle heartbeat is always with you.